So I'd like to open up Q&A with a question I have for Lorne, which is, I've just stood up here and said, you cannot plan it in advance. You will spend 6 to 9 months just trying to figure out what the heck your game is, and yet there's this rumor that Lorne went into pre-production of his game with a 500-page document that described exactly what it is, and they built it, and the game was called Abe's Oddysee. So, is that true? And how did you do it?
It's semi-true. One, I just want to say, Mark, I think that what you just talked about is so important for this industry to hear. I couldn't agree more. It's outstanding. But they're making me get up here. On Abe's Oddysee, I mean, I think the struggle that most of us have encountered is that when we're trying to get games financed, they're like, that's really interesting, Mark, but like, what's the game going to be? You know, so we deal with that conflict of like creating the illusion that we really know what we want, you know,
in order to close the deal,
building something else. I mean, we talked to Sherry and I came and talked to you at Universal before we were in bed with GT, right? And you saw that game design document back there.
Actually, I didn't see the design document until it was already going, and it was amazing. It looked like it had fallen through a time warp from the year 2005. 500 pages of charts, diagrams, unbelievable production design, and then the game coming up at the same time.
So I think like we come from the film industry where pre-production's everything, you know. And if your script's not finalized before production starts, you know that it's going to be a bad film. In the game stuff, what happened is the characters, we really go into heavy production design. The gameplay, we try to conceptualize. I mean, Munch's Oddysee was a classic case of why we sort of failed in the pre-production design process. Is we had a team of programmers who were like, no, we want everything absolutely defined before we write anything because you're going to change your mind and this is going to happen. It's like, no. See, it's an organic process and we need to be able to feel it. And if it doesn't feel right. And so there's a huge document created. A lot of time was wasted and a lot of that stuff just didn't wind up showing up in the code. In Abe's Oddysee, it was very similar, but the game, it's always been, at Oddworld, historically, we've always had a lot of struggles with code, and I think we all do. But a lot of the ideas of what were conceptualized were up here, and then what we were able to achieve, you know, kind of wound up here. So it was a process of trying to synthesize what we could do with what we wanted to do, and then I call it reactionary design. You know, where you're a game designer going, shit, it's just not working, and we've got X amount of days, we've got to figure this out before we get it straight. So it didn't, the story more clearly manifest from beginning to end, which I think is the most critical part if you're making the cinematic story-ish type of entertainment experience. But the gameplay itself went through several transmutations, and I don't know how it wouldn't. And everything you just described is exactly how we've moved forward since you know, our last project into the next.
Well, great.